Harem Anime. For the one person that's never heard of anime in their life, but ended up clicking on this video somehow, this is what a harem anime is. You get the most basic ass, blank piece of paper ass dude as your main character, and he's usually surrounded by a swarm of anime girls, all representing some kind of overdone archetype. We watch as this main character, who's basically the anime character equivalent of watching paint dry, somehow rizzes up all of these different girls one by one throughout the course of the series by treating them with a basic level of respect. Who will he end up choosing as his one and only? Or will he choose everyone and live in this fantastical harem world for the rest of his life, happily ever after? Watch the 50-something episode anime to find out at the last fucking moment of it. Ugh, I don't even know if I personally like or hate harems as a trope, to be honest. I just think they're kind of dumb. Like, this whole concept just makes me shrug my shoulders, tilt my head to the side, and ask the million-dollar question of why? I've never been a huge fan of romance anime in general, so maybe I'm just not the target audience for this trope. I personally enjoy watching anime about soldiers getting their asses absolutely torn apart by some beautiful and muscular titan jaws, rather than having Mr. Blank Whiteboard over here being more indecisive about his multiple potential romantic partners than my friends and I trying to decide where to go eat for dinner. I need to confess my sin to the anime lords that I haven't really delved deep into the rabbit hole of this degeneracy. I've wanted to make a video talking about harem anime for a while now. In order for me to talk about harem anime though, I first needed to grasp a better understanding of the genre. And so to Google I went. Hello everybody, my name is Leo Hashi, and thank you very much for coming to my class presentation. Today I wanted to talk about harems in anime. That's right, I made a PowerPoint just for this video for the first time in years, baby! I first started by trying to define what exactly is a harem. According to Wikipedia, it's a genre of light novels, manga, anime, and video games focusing on a main character surrounded by multiple potential romantic or sexual partners. Harem works are frequently comedies that rely on self-insert protagonists of whom allow projection for the viewer, often accompanied with an ensemble cast of supporting characters. And I know, okay, you're not supposed to use Wikipedia as a source, but I'm not in school anymore, and this isn't a paper, so fuck you, professor. Here are some types of harem anime that exist. First, we have the female harem slash seraglios, a story featuring a heterosexual male or homosexual female protagonist paired with an all-female harem. Some examples of this include High School DxD, Rent a Girlfriend, and even the quintessential quintuplets, which features one socially inept dude being hunted down by, well, quintuplets. Have you ever wanted to marry twins? Ever wanted to join a tricycle of love by joining a triplet as their lawfully wedded husband or wife? Well, there's shows even for you. Then we have the male harem or reverse harem. This is a story featuring a heterosexual female or homosexual male protagonist with an all-male harem. Examples include Fruits Basket, or on High School Host Club, and La Storia della Arcana Famiglia, which is quite possibly one of the shittiest, most garbage anime that I have ever seen in my fucking life, and I hate it for an incredibly petty reason that has nothing to do with the fact that it's a harem. Oh my god, the ending for this anime sucked ass. Anyway, the protagonist is often portrayed as a self-insert everyman archetype. They often have very little characterization other than existing and taking up space like an actual NPC, or being so perverted to the point where I'm genuinely concerned that it might be some kind of terminal disease where they have to be perverted or else they'll die. Harem works frequently put off commitment to any specific love interest for as long as possible, sometimes indefinitely, commonly executed by oblivious or easily flustered protagonists. By leaving the protagonist's desires and choices unclear, viewers with different preferences are able to continue their self-insertion without coming into conflict with source material canon. So if you're the type who likes it when things actually happen in a show where they're watching, then maybe this type of anime isn't for you. But if you have a kink for being eternally blue-balled by these clumps of pixels on your screen who will never actually confess their feelings for each other until the day you die, then maybe you might like these? I don't know. Or you just have a 2D waifu-shaped void in your heart and no 3D girl could ever fill it, and only by buying figures with giant plastic and pillows with images of pixelated ass cheeks to clap can you finally feel fulfilled. Is this what they call a Shakespearean tragedy? Okay, maybe I'm being a bit too harsh. You're allowed to enjoy whatever you want, and I think the important part is whether people can separate reality from fantasy. Most harem works end with the main character pairing up with one or more of their suitors, with some games and visual novels featuring branched endings dependent on player choice. A harem ending occurs in works where the protagonist ends together in a polyamorous relationship with all of the suitors. Jesus! The harem ending as a concept is absolutely insane to me. So what, they all live happily ever after? How the fuck does that even work? Harem anime are also pretty closely acquainted with other infamous tropes like fan service, which is basically the anime version of an infinite money glitch. I mean, they wouldn't continue to release gigantic plastic balls in the shape of anime if it didn't bring in a bunch of those green dollar bills. Let's be real. Obviously, harem doesn't always equal fan service, but the two do seem to be often associated with each other. Alright, so after that section, I hope that you and I now have a basic knowledge of what a harem anime might actually entail. But I personally felt like I still had to do a bit more research to understand this genre more. So I decided to look up harem anime on Google and look at the list of the most popular harem anime on my anime list and actually try watching some of High School DxD. Which is apparently the most popular harem anime on my anime list. If you've never seen High School DxD, I don't blame you. It's the kind of anime that makes it impossible to convince that one friend who has never seen anime that it's not all weird perverted hentai shit. High School DxD is like fan service the anime. Panty shots, unnecessary fan service, a main character with a terminal case of pervert, girls being objectified every other frame of animation. I mean, this show has got it all, man. I told myself that I'd at least watch the first season of this godforsaken show in order to do some research, no matter how fucking painful or brain melting the journey became. I actually ended up watching 13 episodes, which was one more than the 12 episodes of season 1. So hey, I did it. In fact, I kind of over-delivered. And well, suffice to say, I don't think I'll be watching the other 40 episodes left in the series, because although it somehow wasn't the worst anime I've ever seen, my god, was it painful at some points to get through. In fact, I remember when I started to actually watch the anime, I jotted down in my notes, it has been literally 1 minute and 9 seconds since I started watching High School DxD, and I already want to die. High School DxD is a story about a perverted high school boy named Issei Hyodo, who after being killed on his first date, is reincarnated into a devil by this mysterious girl named Rias Grammary. Rias? Asking to have your balls in my mouth. He is turned into her servant and joins his school's occult research club, which was just a front for Rias' servants in order to get out of school activities in case of an emergency to hunt down stray devils or a fallen angel, which are the show's primary antagonistic group, at least in season 1. I have no idea what happens after, and I honestly do not care. In this occult research club, Issei of course grows closer with Rias, but also with the other club members and newer ones that join over the course of the series, I think. And of course, since this is a harem anime, every single girl around this dude apparently falls in love with him over the course of the series. And I feel like I read somewhere that he ends up proposing to like all of the girls at the same time or something. What the fuck? There's a bunch of lore with angels and devils and fallen angels who are angels who were disgraced by God because they fucked a human or some shit. I don't really know. Issei gains some kind of power on his arm, and it turns out to be one of the legendary 13 spectral whatever the shit, and he is a chosen one, yada yada yada. I mean, come on. We all know that none of this lore shit really matters in the end, because we all know exactly what this show is about. It's about The show immediately establishes that it knows exactly what it's doing by letting us know that Issei's primary character trait is that he is a pervert. We get an uncomfortable amount of fan service shots where the animators, while drawing this fucking anime with only one hand, are just practically shoving boobs and ass down the viewer's throat. And this is something that just happens throughout this entire show. Also, do you wonder why Issei enrolled in this specific school that he's in? Because apparently it was an all-girls school, but recently became a co-ed school. And I guess they had this genius plan where if they enrolled in this school while there weren't as many boys as girls, then they wouldn't have to put in the work and would be swimming in pussy just by being there. I mean, it sounds almost comical when I describe it out loud, but no, that's like the canonical thing. That's what's happening here. Then we also get introduced to Issei's two closest friends, who are both somehow even more depraved than Issei himself. Like, these two people might genuinely become a danger to society at some point. Like, they're both just as obsessive over women's bodies as Issei is, to the point where I feel like the shape of their brains have each morphed into the shapes of tits or panties, because these two dudes do not think about anything else at all. Professional gooners quiver in the presence of these two titans of pervertedness, okay? One of them even lists off every single girl's 3 sizes like he's the fucking Pokédex. How is this real? Anyways, meet the members of the fan service club. I mean, the occult research club. You got Rias, the president of the club, who is basically the poster girl of fan service stereotypes. Akeno, who is the resident ana girl. Koneko, the underclassman with a quiet presence but a tough attitude. Asiya, a clueless and shy priest turned demon who fell head over heels in love with the main character, to the point where if another girl strips naked in front of him, she will also do the same thing because she's jealous. Oh, and there's Yuto, a pretty boy who's adored by many female students and hated by the other male students, including Issei at first. He was also the only character who I kinda liked. Again, I only watched 13 episodes of the show, so I'm sure there's other characters that join the club later on or whatever, other things that happen. I don't really know. And while this video isn't about fan service, so I won't be talking too much about that, I just have to first mention the fact that 75% of this entire show is basically just fan service. This show was made for gooners by gooners. It feels like have their own laws of physics in the show that's just completely separate from everything else that exists in reality. A character will tilt like literally just 5 degrees downward, and her entire chest will flop up and down like a fucking fish trying to jump back into the water. And this might be crude for me to say, but I swear to God, bro, the animators must have felt like it was life or death when it came to drawing nipples. At some point, it's all just fucking ridiculous. Am I crazy for like thinking this is insane? Issei, the main character, is pretty unbearable. Over the course of the show, despite his pervertedness, we see that he's a good-natured guy who does care for people and yada yada yada. You know, the basic self-insert protagonist who's awful and gross perverted nature is completely forgiven because deep down, he's a good guy. He gets a unique power with a lot of power potential, and despite this, sees himself as being the weakest member of the club and useless over the course of the series. He's your run-of-the-mill self-insert intended character with an overtly perverted nature, and despite this, you got every girl in the show falling in love with this dude. Starting with Rias Grammary, we see her catch interest in our main character because he might have some hidden ability. Then she reincarnates him into a devil and makes him into her servant, which, come on, has to have sexual undertones for the viewers to enjoy. And then suddenly, he's just waking up to her sleeping next to him completely naked without a care in the world. They bond over the course of the series as Issei declares that he fights for her as her servant and he doesn't need any other reason to keep going. But I gotta be honest, man, this romance was just so out of nowhere that I just cannot even fathom it. It's not even like Issei actually did anything. And Rias as a character also felt not fleshed out enough for me as a viewer to even understand her that well, because the show was too busy sexualizing her half the time to even tell a story about her in the first place. If Issei's only personality trait is perv, then Rias's only personality trait is fan service. We also then see the other girls fall in love with him over the course of the series. Oh, and during this entire story, these girls randomly have their clothes melted off of them in one way or another, while Issei drools and stares at these girls who are already being violated. And later on, Issei actually develops his own magical technique where he shreds the clothing and undergarments off of any woman he uses this move on. I feel like no sane person would see this disgusting, lecherous pest of a human being who literally uses his powerful magical abilities to strip girls naked without any consent whatsoever and go, oh my god, he might have completely violated a bunch of women, but he's such a nice person deep down inside. Oh my god, I want to love him. Hello. But I mean, I don't know, people have their own tastes, so who am I to say? I guess what I'm trying to say is, sure, Issei might be a decent person on the inside, but again, some of the things he does and says are so gross that it just makes me cringe, bro. I don't know, man. To me, it just seemed like what a lot of Issei was doing that was considered good was what any decent human being would probably, hopefully do. You know those nice guys who be like, I held the door for you, why won't you have sex with me? You know, like because they do something nice, they should be rewarded with companionship and love. It seems like someone like that wrote this series. Okay, so yeah, High School DxD is basically every single negative stereotype that people might have about anime all rolled into one egregious package. My experience sitting through 13 episodes straight was pretty rough, and it's a ride that I'm definitely not willing to go back on after this video. But I have also seen other harem animes before when I was much younger. I've seen through the entirety of Oreimo, an anime about a high school boy who rejects literally every other girl that falls in love with him in the series in order to pretend marry his biological sister, which is a show that I've talked about in other videos before. I've also seen this anime called The World God Only Knows, which was an anime from the early 2010s. It's about a high school student named Keima Katsuragi who is an avid player of gal games, which are video games that involve interactions with anime styled pretty girls. He's known on the internet as the god of conquests for his legendary skills to be able to conquer any 2D girls in games. Honestly, I don't know how proud I would be for being known as the Riz god of 2D girls. Technically, can't anyone be that? Just look up a walkthrough on the internet. Anyways, at the start of the series, Keimo receives an email offering him a contract to conquer girls, and thinking of it as an invitation to a game challenge, he accepts. Suddenly, a demon from hell named Elsie appears. She is a spirit hunter who asks Keimo for help in capturing evil spirits that have escaped into the human realm. These evil spirits hide themselves inside the hearts of girls. Elsie says that the only way to exorcise these spirits is by conquering the girls' hearts. And oh, does he conquer them all. They don't call him the god of conquest for nothing, I guess. I remember I did enjoy this show when I watched it in middle school, but I'm not sure if it's something I'll enjoy if I try to watch it again today. Either way though, I will say the opening themes for this anime were all absolute fucking bangers, and it breaks my heart to know that none of them are on Spotify. Well, that about wraps up my personal experience with watching harem anime, and my conclusion is, well, it's not really my thing. Why is this genre so popular? Where did it even begin? With so many questions and not many answers, I once again set off on a dangerous quest to find out the dark truths that hide behind the wide veils of the Google search screen. I'll link all the stuff I quote from down in the description below for anyone who is curious, but let me talk about some interesting stuff I found during my conquest. Japanese men struggle to approach women and start a serious romantic relationship. The closest to a relationship known by most young Japanese is friendship, which explains the great difficulty they have in separating friendship from love. They are not taught to express their feelings, making it a problem for relationships. They lack a way to express their sexual attraction in a socially acceptable way. The Western ideal of chivalric love allows Westerners to express their attraction indirectly through flattery and metaphorical hyperbole. Harem anime allow these men to project themselves into the story and to sympathize with the main man. The stories explore the various problems and ways to express attraction. Of course, the stories use comedy to blunt the discomfort they may feel when a scene cuts too close to their own experiences. I found a comment on Reddit that also talked about the appeal of these harem anime. It's a power fantasy, obviously. It's meant for people who really don't have much luck with dating / romance or anything else. For them, I think the end goal is just having sex or getting into a relationship rather than the actual relationship. Having a competing harem protagonist is like watching Naruto and he starts out as the Hokage. Wait, I'm kind of confused about that analogy, but interesting. The bad luck angle plays with the target audience a bit. It can't be the protagonist's fault they're single. No, the universe is conspiring against them. So the biggest reason is probably self-insertion. Most of what happens in the harem anime that I've seen are full of unrealistic situations that just scream fantasy fulfillment whenever they happen. To a certain extent, I can understand the appeal of an anime like this. Someone might feel frustrated about their dating life or maybe a lack thereof. We've all felt lonely at times, especially in today's society where the internet might serve as a constant reminder of that lonely feeling to some people. And I understand wanting to escape that lonely feeling too. Someone might feel comfort in being able to self-insert themselves into the shoes of a harem anime protagonist and suddenly being wanted by everyone else around them.
Drowning in that 2D anime girl, let's see if you know what I mean.
Jesus Christ, I am so sorry. My honest opinion is that while I can understand wanting to escape that reality, I also think using this kind of anime as an escape will only really do more harm than any good. Let's be real. 99% of what happens with the harem trope is unrealistic, wish fulfillment type garbage. Using a show that normalizes unrealistic, unhealthy, and sometimes predatory behavior as a coping mechanism or an escape from reality might end up giving someone the wrong impression on how shit works in real life. Not to say that I'm much of an expert on real life, seeing as I touch grass like once a month, but that is just my opinion on all of this. And real talk, it might not even be that deep, and I'm just looking into this way more than any sane human should. As much as I can talk shit about all this stuff, in the end, you're allowed to enjoy what you enjoy, for the most part, but we won't go into that can of worms today. Again, I'm just a dumbass YouTuber, so it's not really my place to decide anything for anyone, you know? There's also some other interesting, well, maybe horrifying is a better word for it, but anyways, there's some other angles on the appeal of the harem anime. For many harem protagonists, the girls act more like mothers than romantic partners, at least to Western viewers. Mothers still have a central role in Japanese culture, and many traditional husbands depend on their wives like a child depends on his mother. He depends on her for satisfying his daily routines. The concept of the ie, or house, lingers. In the model, men control the public face of the family, while women control the finances and private aspects of the household. In fact, the influence of the Japanese mother is so strong that it has led many people to regard Japanese society as maternal, and the mother as the sole key figure in developing Japanese behavior and personality characteristics. While Japanese relationships have modernized, the culture traditions still remain and cause tension for women who want careers. This tension makes some male viewers long for a time before these complications. I've even seen this dynamic in the United States among men who believe women should be in the home and the men out working. Traditional wives often use guilt to control the behavior of children and husbands. If you pay attention, you'll see this behavior in harem stories. Many of the female characters will make the protagonist feel guilty to influence his behavior, usually to make him decide on her. They coddle him in their own ways, or in the case of the tsundere, attack him, because that is what traditional wives did. Harem stories allow modern viewers to indulge traditional Japanese gender role fantasies. Multiple girls vying for attention amplifies this traditional gender role fantasy. Of course, this depends on the story too. Not all harem stories feature this. So basically, Japan has severe mommy issues, is what it sounds like. Oh dear god. From the perspective of Japan and Japanese society, there is definitely a cultural aspect as to why this is so popular. Historically, the traditional role of women in Japan has been defined as the quote-unquote 3 submissions. Young women submit to their fathers, married women submit to their husbands, and elderly women submit to their sons. Men were considered the heads of the household, and women were dependent on the men. Japan as a society was and is very hierarchical, but women were historically considered to be of a lower status than men. Over time, though, this has changed, and these traditional ways of seeing society and gender roles have begun to diminish. But culture and traditions don't just change overnight, unfortunately. I mean, the language of Japanese itself has different ways of saying the same sentence for different people with different levels of respect. This sort of hierarchy is literally ingrained into the language, and through that, society. But of course, not everyone agrees with the traditional views on gender roles and wants to be independent from that, which in turn causes a clash to occur, and society goes kaboom! And a random man watching a harem anime nuts all over his computer screen while imagining to be the servant of a 2D pixelated girl with red hair and boobs with a life of their own. Look, in a way, I feel like I know what I'm talking about, but in another completely different way, I guess I have absolutely no f***ing idea what I'm talking about. I just think I sound intelligent, and that makes me feel cool, okay? So please indulge me, make me feel like a genius, thank you. So anyways, society in Japan is slowly changing, while traditional viewpoints of the quote-unquote submissive woman still lingers within society. And bam! In the 1970s, a manga called Urusei Yatsura, or Those Obnoxious Aliens, was released. The anime airs from 1981 to 1986, and was released in a bunch of countries outside of Japan too. The story of Urusei Yatsura follows Ataru, a high schooler whose single notable talent is chasing after the ladies. When a group of aliens invades Earth, they play a game to determine the planet's fate. If a randomly selected human, which naturally turns out to be Ataru, is able to defeat their champion Namu in a game of tag, the invasion will be called off. Moreover, if he wins, Ataru's childhood friend Shinobu promises that she will marry him. During the game, Ataru manages to steal Namu's bikini top, tricking her into flying at him to get it back. Catching her, Ataru shouts triumphantly, "Now I can finally marry her!" Misunderstanding this as a proposal, Namu accepts on the spot and immediately moves in with him. From there on out, the story continues to follow Ataru and Namu as various attractive aliens try to steal Ataru from Namu or vice versa. The Urusei Yatsura anime became immensely popular. In fact, it was the first title to inspire fan-written translations and was essentially responsible for creating the basic structure of every harem anime to follow. But Urusei Yatsura walked so that Tenchi Muyo could run. Released in 1992, Tenchi Muyo was the anime that popularized the harem genre to an even bigger scale. The series also helped pave the way for the eventual success of many similar titles such as Saber Marionette, Martian successor Nadeshiko, Handmaid May, Steel Angel Kurumi, Love Hina, and Kanon. It's crazy, I have never heard of any of these shows. If you've seen any of these shows, let me know in the comments below. And now today, we have anime where a dude literally has fucking quintuplets falling in love with him, being one of the most popular animes known throughout the world. Overall, while the harem anime genre has exploded in popularity, the general perception seems to be negative amongst anime fans, and understandably so. And according to my best friend Wikipedia, critics have also argued that harem genre tropes around a passive protagonist effortlessly picking and choosing from multiple eager suitors furthers the mythos of men being entitled to female affection, and can lead to impressionable male readers to react negatively to being rejected by women in real life. Now, while I don't know if I can confirm or deny the validity of this, people can be very impressionable, and I feel like it wouldn't be unrealistic to say that this might have had a bit of an influence on some people's behaviors in real life, which, you know, is kind of a problem. Once again, I'm just a dumbass YouTuber, so take my words with a grain of salt. This is just my opinion on all of this. All in all, I just think the harem anime genre is kind of dumb, and I'm not just talking about about your basic ass heteronormative dude being chased by a bunch of girls type situation either. I mean, no matter what gender the protagonist is or the love interests are, this genre to me is still just dumb. Yeah, I'm talking about you, Fruits Basket. Yo, I really tried to get through that show. I could not finish it. Okay, maybe I'm just kind of mad that I feel like I literally wasted an entire day watching High School DxD, okay? Like, those are hours that I will never get back in my life, okay? Help. But anyways, yeah, that's my opinion on this whole harem anime trope genre thing. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. If you got to this point in the video, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you giving me your time. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like as it helps out in the algorithm a lot. And don't forget to subscribe for more. And I will see you in the next video that I decide to make. Peace out.